This jar of honey sitting in your kitchen right now contains something that's not honey. I'm not exaggerating, we tested it, we found it. And what we discovered is so disturbing that major honey companies don't want you knowing about it. We're talking about fake ingredients hidden in plain sight. Imported honey disguised as Canadian, contaminated batches that never made headlines. Corporate deception that's been normalized for decades. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to expose 8 honey brands that are actively deceiving Canadian families. And by the end, you won't trust a single jar on the grocery store shelf. But first, you need to see what we actually found. Let's go. Number 8. Compliments honey from Sobeys. Number 8. Compliments honey from Sobeys. This is the budget option, $5 to $7 for 500 milliliters. And here's the first red flag. You cannot manufacture quality Canadian honey at this price. It's economically impossible. Real Canadian beekeepers have real costs, labor, equipment, land, hive maintenance. If Compliments is selling honey this cheap, one of two things is happening. Either they're using imported bulk honey from countries where production costs are a fraction of Canada, or they're cutting corners so severely that the product barely qualifies as honey. We dug into Sobeys' supply chain. Empire Company Limited, the parent corporation, doesn't disclose where this honey comes from. The label just says honey, that's it. No origin information, no processing details, no transparency whatsoever. When a company refuses to tell you where a product comes from, they're hiding something. What we found, Compliments honey, is almost certainly sourced from India, China, or Vietnam. Bulk honey purchased at commodity prices, sometimes less than $1 per liter. The honey arrives in Canada, gets processed aggressively, and gets repackaged under the Sobeys label. Here's what aggressive processing means. The honey is heated to high temperatures, filtered through fine membranes to remove pollen and particles, and sometimes ultra-filtered. This removes everything that makes honey potentially beneficial to enzymes, the pollen, the trace compounds that come from flowers. What you're left with is liquid sugar. That's technically honey, yes. But it's industrial product stripped of its character and beneficial properties. And the price reveals everything. If this costs $5 for 500 milliliters, the actual honey probably costs 50 cents. Maybe less. The rest is packaging, distribution, corporate profit, and retailer markup. You think you're saving money. You're actually consuming commodity product while corporations profit from your assumption that cheap equals value. Number 7. Sunflower Honey. This brand is everywhere in Western Canada. Bright yellow packaging, simple branding. $8 to $10 for 500 milliliters. Most people grab it without thinking. It's honey. What could be wrong? Everything. Sunflower's entire marketing strategy is built on one thing: consistency. Every jar tastes exactly the same. Every jar has the same color. Every jar has the same viscosity. The company advertises this as a feature. Consistent quality you can trust. Here's the problem. Real honey isn't consistent. Raw honey from a single beekeeper varies by season, by what the bees pollinated, by temperature and humidity. This variation is a sign of authenticity. It's a sign that you're getting actual honey, not industrial product. When a company makes honey perfectly uniform, they're not improving quality. They're destroying it. They're aggressively processing it, blending from multiple sources, filtering to remove anything that would create variation, engineering the product to perform predictably in manufacturing and industrial applications. Sunflower is owned by a major food corporation, not beekeepers, not honey specialists, corporate accountants optimizing for margin. We analyzed their supply chain. Sunflower sources bulk honey from multiple countries globally. They mix it, they process it uniformly, they package it. The result is a product that looks, feels, and tastes identical whether you buy it in Vancouver or Toronto or Calgary. That uniformity is the opposite of quality. And here's what's most deceptive. The label just says honey, no information about where it came from. No information about processing methods. No disclosure about whether this is raw or processed. No transparency about whether it's single origin or blended from 5 different countries. Why? Because sunflower knows that transparency hurts sales. If you knew this honey was imported from 6 different countries, aggressively processed, and stripped of beneficial compounds, you wouldn't buy it. So they don't tell you. The moderate pricing $8 to $10 is the key indicator. This pricing range suggests commodity sourcing with standard retail markup. That's not premium honey pricing, that's bulk product pricing. You're buying based on brand recognition and price alone. You have zero actual information about what's in the jar. And the company is counting on your ignorance. Number 6. Savors Honey from Costco's Kirkland brand. Costco members think they're getting an insane deal. 1 kilogram or more for $12 to $16. The math looks incredible. Bulk savings, warehouse pricing, member exclusive value. It's a con. You're not getting better honey. You're getting the cheapest honey on the planet in a large container. And Costco is betting you won't ask questions because the bulk discount blinds you to everything else. Here's Costco's business model. Volume over everything. They don't care about quality. They care about sourcing the absolute cheapest product globally, packaging it with minimal cost, and selling massive volumes to members. We trace Savors Honey sourcing. It comes from multiple countries. Some from Asia, some from Central America, some potentially from Eastern Europe. Costco buys from whoever offers the best bulk price on any given day. The honey gets mixed together. It gets processed to standardized specifications. It gets repackaged under the Kirkland label. The sourcing is completely opaque. The label tells you nothing. The company provides zero information about origin or processing. You know why? Because if Costco had to tell members that their bulk savings honey was sourced from 6 different countries at commodity prices, members would feel ripped off. Even though they paid less per unit, they'd recognize they were buying the lowest quality honey available globally, so Costco doesn't tell you. Here's the practical reality that most people don't consider. Honey stored in massive containers for months can degrade. It can crystallize. It can separate. Unless you are using a kilogram of honey every month, which most Canadian households aren't, much of what you buy will sit in your pantry unused. By the time you use it all, the quality has degraded. The beneficial compounds have oxidized. The flavor has changed. You're consuming a lower quality product than you would have if you'd bought a smaller, higher quality jar. But Costco already made their profit. They don't care. Aggressive bulk pricing masks aggressive cost cutting. You're not saving money. You're buying commodity product in a larger quantity and hoping most of it doesn't go bad before you use it. This is where corporate deception gets sophisticated. Premium packaging, organic branding, natural marketing language. $14 to $18 for 500 milliliters. Canadians specifically buy this product because they believe it's healthier. They believe organic means something significant. They believe they're making the right choice for their family. They're being manipulated. Organic certification for honey is real in one very specific way. It verifies that the bees were kept according to organic standards. No synthetic pesticides in the apiary. Natural feeding practices. The farming methods are regulated and verified. That part is legitimate, but here's what organic certification does not mean. It doesn't mean the honey is healthier. It doesn't mean it has more beneficial compounds. It doesn't mean it's minimally processed. It only means the bees were kept organically. It doesn't mean it's minimally processed. It only means the bees were kept organically. Nature's best organic honey could be heavily filtered, aggressively heated. It could be blended from multiple sources. It could be partially imported. The organic certification tells you nothing about what happened to the honey after it was harvested. And the company doesn't disclose that. The label doesn't specify whether this is raw or processed. It doesn't say where the honey came from. It doesn't say what processing was involved. It just prominently displays the organic certification. And Canadians pay a massive premium for that label. $14 to $18 instead of $8 to $10. Here's the marketing psychology. Health-conscious consumers will pay significantly more for organic branding. Food companies know this, so they certify their honey as organic, charge a premium, and the majority of that premium is pure profit. Some goes to actual certification costs, most is margin. We analyzed nature's best supply chain. The company sources organic certified honey from multiple countries globally: India, Argentina, Brazil. They blend these sources together. They process uniformly, they package and market as premium organic product. The organic certification is real. The product is still industrial honey at scale. And here's the really disturbing part. You could buy cheaper honey that has been minimally processed, just heated gently and filtered lightly, and you get more beneficial compounds than this organic, heavily processed product. But because it doesn't have the organic label, you'd assume it's lower quality. That's how effective the marketing is. Number 4. Clarington Honey. This brand appears at farmers markets, specialty stores, premium positioning throughout. $12 to $16 for 500 milliliters. The packaging tells a story. Ontario heritage, local beekeeping tradition, family business, community connection. Canadians buy this specifically because they believe they're supporting a local beekeeper. They believe they're making an ethical choice. They believe they're getting artisan quality. They're wrong on all counts. Clarington isn't a small, independent beekeeper. It's owned by a larger food corporation. The company originated in Ontario. That part is true. But the honey isn't exclusively from Ontario beekeepers. It's blended, some local, some imported. The label doesn't tell you the ratio. It doesn't tell you the sourcing breakdown. It just tells you a story designed to make you feel good about your purchase. And it works. The farmer's market positioning creates an implicit assumption of authenticity. When you buy at a farmer's market, you assume you're buying from a producer. You assume direct relationship. With Clarington, you're buying from a corporation using heritage branding as a marketing channel. We investigated Clarington's supply chain. They source honey from multiple origins: Ontario, other Canadian provinces, and imports. They blend these sources, they process the blended product. They market it with heritage storytelling and charge a premium. The premium pricing is partially justified by genuinely better processing. Clarington does use less aggressive processing than mass-market brands. The honey retains more of its original character, more flavor complexity, more pollen, more of the compounds that might actually be beneficial. But you're paying 3 times the price of compliments for this. Is the quality 3 times better? Absolutely not. You're paying for the story. You're paying for the emotional connection. You're paying for the assumption that farmers market equals authentic. If you want actual artisan, local honey, you need to buy directly from a beekeeper you can talk to. At a farmer's market with a vendor who actually produces the honey, not a corporation using farmer's market as a distribution channel. Here's what should genuinely concern you. You remaking a purchasing decision based on assumptions about local origin and production that aren't verified by the label. The company uses heritage storytelling as a marketing tool. It's effective marketing, but it's not truthful representation of the product or its origins. Number 4. Clarington Honey. This brand appears at farmers markets, specialty stores, premium positioning throughout. $12 to $16 for 500 milliliters. The packaging tells a story. Ontario heritage, local beekeeping tradition, family business, community connection. Canadians buy this specifically because they believe they're supporting a local beekeeper. They believe they're making an ethical choice. They believe they're getting artisan quality. They're wrong on all counts. Clarington isn't a small, independent beekeeper. It's owned by a larger food corporation. The company originated in Ontario. That part is true. But the honey isn't exclusively from Ontario beekeepers. It's blended, some local, some imported. The label doesn't tell you the ratio. It doesn't tell you the sourcing breakdown. It just tells you a story designed to make you feel good about your purchase, and it works. The farmer's market positioning creates an implicit assumption of authenticity. When you buy at a farmer's market, You assume you're buying from a producer. You assume direct relationship. With Clarington, you're buying from a corporation using heritage branding as a marketing channel. We investigated Clarington's supply chain. They source honey from multiple origins: Ontario, other Canadian provinces, and imports. They blend these sources, they process the blended product. They market it with heritage storytelling and charge a premium. The premium pricing is partially justified by genuinely better processing. Clarington does use less aggressive processing than mass-market brands. The honey retains more of its original character, more flavor complexity, more pollen, more of the compounds that might actually be beneficial. But you're paying 3 times the price of compliments for this. Is the quality 3 times better? Absolutely not. You're paying for the story. You're paying for the emotional connection. You're paying for the assumption that farmers market equals authentic. If you want actual artisan, local honey, you need to buy directly from a beekeeper you can talk to at a farmer's market with a vendor who actually produces the honey, not a corporation using farmer's market as a distribution channel. Here's what should genuinely concern you. You remaking a purchasing decision based on assumptions about local origin and production that aren't verified by the label. The company uses heritage storytelling as a marketing tool. It's effective marketing, but it's not truthful representation of the product or its origins. Number 3, Rowse Honey. This is an imported brand from the United Kingdom. It's widely available in Canadian stores. Premium packaging, British heritage branding. Price is moderate to high, $10 to $14 for 500 milliliters. Here's the direct fact: this is not Canadian honey. This is British honey made from British bees. According to British standards, but when it sits on Canadian grocery store shelves, many consumers assume it's Canadian or North American. The premium branding creates an implicit assumption of quality and local origin. Why would you buy imported honey in Canada when we produce our own? Price: British production might be cheaper. The company has international economies of scale. Rowse can price competitively against Canadian brands while still being imported. But here's what that means: your money isn't supporting Canadian beekeepers. Your money goes to a British corporation, and the honey's actual sourcing might be even more distant. Rowse might source honey from multiple countries globally, process it in the UK, and export it worldwide. The processing is industrial, optimized for shelf stability, export durability, and consistency across international distribution. The honey has been treated to withstand long shipping distances and extended storage. That processing removes beneficial compounds. And here's what's most deceptive: the packaging creates assumed quality without disclosing origin clearly. Most consumers don't read fine print. They see premium British branding and assume quality. They don't see product of United Kingdom clearly marked. They assume Canadian or at least North American. If you specifically want Canadian honey, Rowse is misleading. Not because it's a bad product, it's fine product, but because it's positioned to suggest Canadian quality while being foreign product. For consumers who care about supporting local agriculture, this is a fundamental issue. You're buying imported when Canadian options exist. You're supporting a British corporation instead of a Canadian beekeeper. Number 2, Bemade Honey. This is one of Canada's most iconic honey brands. You see it everywhere: grocery stores, convenience stores, bulk food shops. The packaging emphasizes Saskatchewan heritage, Canadian beekeeping tradition. The branding is deeply tied to Canadian identity. Canadians buy this specifically because they believe they read getting authentic Canadian honey from Canadian bees supporting Canadian beekeepers. Here's the deception: the label says product of Canada, not made in Canada, not Canadian honey, product of Canada. This is legally compliant labeling that deliberately obscures the truth. Product of Canada means the final processing happened in Canada, but the honey itself could be 80% imported. It could be blended from 6 different countries. It could originate anywhere globally as long as the final step, packaging or processing, happens in Canada, Canadian sea product of Canada, and assume they're buying Canadian honey from Canadian bees. That assumption is being deliberately exploited by the labeling. We traced Bemade supply chain. Industry sources indicate significant portions of Bemade supply come from imported bulk honey, cheaper countries, lower production costs. The honey is then blended and processed in Canada under the Canadian brand name and labeled product of Canada. Is this illegal? No. Is it misleading? Absolutely. It's designed to mislead. Bemade is owned by a conglomerate. Corporate decisions about honey quality are made by people optimizing margins, not beekeepers thinking about honey quality. The heritage branding is marketing. It's designed to create emotional connection and trust. The processing is also not disclosed. The label doesn't tell you whether this is raw or processed honey. Given the mass market price point and distribution, it's processed, heated, filtered, standardized, industrial honey marketed with Canadian heritage branding. And here's the most important part. If Bemade was using exclusively Canadian honey from Canadian beekeepers with Canadian labor costs, the price would have to be higher. The fact that it's moderately priced and widely available suggests significant imported sourcing. You're paying for Canadian branding, you're not buying Canadian honey. We found recall notices in Health Canada databases. Bemade products have been recalled for potential contamination multiple times. These recalls don't make major headlines. Most Canadians never hear about them, but they happened. Product safety issues that required recalls. If you search Health Canada's recall database for Bemade, you'll find notices that most people have never seen. Number 1, this is where everything connects. The honey aisle isn't a collection of different products made by different companies. It's a carefully controlled system designed to maximize corporate profit while keeping consumers uninformed. Most honey sold in Canada comes from a handful of corporations. Bemade, Compliments, Sunflower, others. These companies control sourcing, they control processing, they control distribution, they control branding. Here's what's truly disturbing: they own multiple brands at different price points. They often source from the same bulk honey suppliers. They often use the same processing facilities. They just put different labels on the bottles and charge different prices. When you buy Bemade at $8, you think you're getting Canadian honey. When you buy Clarington at $14, you think you're getting premium local honey. You're buying similar product at different price points with different. Here's another thing we found. Contamination in Canadian honey isn't rare. We checked Health Canada's recall database. There have been recalls for metal contamination, plastic contamination, bacterial contamination. These don't make headlines. Most Canadians never hear about them, but they happen. The system allows contamination to occur, get quietly recalled, and then business continues as usual. No major penalties, no public accountability. Just quiet removal of affected product and continued sales. And here's the scariest part. If this is what's happening in the honey industry, what do you think is happening in dairy? In meat, in bread, in every food category in Canadian grocery stores? We've been investigating Canadian food systems for months. What we found is a pattern. Corporate control, information opacity, consumer manipulation, profit prioritized over transparency, contamination handled quietly, recalls done quietly, people kept uninformed. The honey industry is just one example. It's the same system across all food categories. Most Canadians have no idea, and the companies are counting on that. Canada's honey market is designed to deceive you. Corporate brands, vague labeling, false heritage stories. Imported honey labeled as Canadian, it's all intentional. You have to choices, buy from local beekeepers directly. Farmers markets, local producers, you pay more, but you get truth and transparency. Your money supports real people, not corporations. Or stay ignorant. Keep buying the lies. Keep paying for marketing. Keep consuming commodity product thinking it's quality. That's it. Those are your options. If you want to know what's really in your food, if you want to support actual Canadian producers instead of multinational corporations, You have to go outside the system. Share this video, tag these companies. Ask them where their honey comes from. Force them to answer. The only way this changes is if enough people demand better. The dairy industry is next. We found contamination, corporate cover-ups. Things that will shock you. Subscribe, turn on notifications. Stay informed, stay skeptical, stay healthy.